I will not pick Arizona to win the Big 12 for a couple of reasons. But Max Chadwick, joining me here of Pro Football Focus, is going to do just that, or at least he has done just that. So, Max, I'll get to why I'm down on Arizona compared to some. They're a preseason top 25 team, number 21 in the AP poll. I think that's fine. I don't know if they end up there by the time the season comes to a close because I don't think their schedule works out in a very favorable fashion to wind up in the top 25. I don't think it's that favorable of a Big 12 schedule either. But when you look at Arizona's team and all that they lost from last year, there are some key returners, no doubt about it. But they lost a good chunk from that 10-3 football team from a season ago. Why do you like them this year?
Honestly, they return so much talent still, man. I mean, they bring back Noah Fafita, who in my opinion is a top 10 quarterback in the country. They bring back Tetsuo McMillan, who is at worst the second best receiver in the country. I think it's a very good argument for him to be number one ahead of Luther Burden the third. So you have him. You bring back Tacario Davis at corner, who's a top 15 pick, I think, in next year's draft. He's an absolute freak athlete. The next Tariq Woolen, in my opinion, top 5 corner in the country as well. You bring back a lot of guys in that secondary, too, that I really like Gunnar Maldonado at safety is a really good player. Trey Ed Stukes at slot corner is a really good player as well. So they bring back Jonas Savaiinea at right tackle. He might be a first-round pick at right tackle as well. And they added some talent in the portal, too. You know, losing Jonah Coleman at running back is a huge loss. He's one of the best running backs in America. But Ja'Cory Krosky-Mayer was one of the highest-graded running backs in the country this past season while at New Mexico. So I think he's going to be at least a good player for them, and the drop-off won't be as severe losing Jonah Coleman. They bring back some other guys defensively, too, like Kevin Darton from Syracuse at D-tackle. Really can help out that run game and pass rushes, too. So I think the Big 12 is wide open, and that's why I'm still going out of their talent. But I do understand some of the weaknesses, you know, the new coaching staff. I don't love Brent Brennan, the new coach they got from San Jose State. Obviously, as a Syracuse fan, Dino Babers, we have had issues with him in the past, too. He's the new offensive coordinator at Arizona. But just looking at the talent, man, and the superstars they bring back, I think they are right now the best team in the Big 12.
I like their high-end talent. It's hard to not like Noah Fafita and Tetsuo McMillan because I agree on the top 10 quarterback at least in all of college football. We'll see what he does this year. T-Mac as a top 2 wide receiver and maybe even not number 2. I can get on board with that suggestion as well going into the year. There are some talented guys that are going to start playing in college football that can push for it, but T-Mac has lived up to the billing as the highest-rated recruit in the history of Arizona football. But I look at last year's team, and they lose a good tight end, they lose a good running back, they lose an NFL offensive lineman, they lose a good corner, they lose a couple pieces along the defensive line. Those are questions that I have and why I think they pull back a little. I don't think their schedule is really favorable, and I'll predict their record here in just a moment. But the other thing, Max, is Brent Brennan is an unknown to me, and I think it's really hard to come in as a new coach and win a conference championship in a league where, yes, it's wide open, but it's also wide open in the Big 12 because there are so many teams that can win the conference championship. I have my Big 12 conference title prediction as being Utah against Kansas, with Utah coming out on top. I think Kansas' schedule, I do wish they played home games, just like I wish it was still Jed Fish down in Tucson rather than Brent Brennan, because I saw him elevate a Mountain West program at San Jose State beyond what it had ever really been in my lifetime. He deserves full faith and credit for that. I still haven't seen him coach against everybody he's going to go up against in the Big 12. Could he play Utah early in the season on the road, come back and beat them in the Big 12 championship game? I don't know, and that's the other question that I have about the Wildcats.
That's very fair, and that is to me the biggest question is Brent Brennan, honestly, at head coaching. And head coaching matters in college football way more than it does in the NFL, right? So I think that is an issue. But I mean, the schedule, man. You look at the power rankings for PFF, the strength of schedule. Arizona has the second easiest schedule in the Big 12 right now at 68th overall.
I need 68th. To speak. Can I speak with your manager, please?
68th overall, man. I'm just saying this schedule is not as brutal as you might think it is. I really don't think it's that bad. And also, I mean, I think in the Big 12 overall, man, and like, yeah, there's a lot of teams that can win it, but it also just means like there are a lot of good teams in the Big 12. Like, I don't think there's a truly like great team in the Big 12.
I agree.
Like, I think all the Big 12 teams, besides Arizona, I think is a top 15 team. But other than that, I think you got teams that would fall in the 16 to 40 range, right, in the Big 12. So I'm not all in on any of the Big 12 teams really outside of Arizona. Even with Arizona, I still see their negatives, but they're really, I mean, you look at any other Big 12 team, like I tell you, glaring weaknesses of any other team in the Big 12 as well. So that's why there's not really the team in the Big 12. There's not really the team in the ACC either. That's why I'm like, yeah, if you're going to make a pick, I think Arizona's a really good one.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go game by game here and give my prediction going into this season. I reserve the right to change from week of the game if I feel differently, of course. But at the moment, this is where I pick Arizona's schedule to be and how I see them going 8-4, which, by the way, I could frame as overachieving. Their win total is 7.5. It opened at 8.5, which I thought was absurd.
7.5 is insulting. That to me, like I would set the total at 8.5, 9.5, maybe, and I still would take the over on that. I would say so. 7.5.
Big confidence. Big confidence.
If you're a betting man, 7.5 is the best bet to make this offseason. I cannot believe the win total's that low.
It's one of them. I take Georgia over 10.5. I don't think the Bulldogs are going to have two regular season losses. I don't see that happening. Here's how I think Arizona's schedule plays out. They open with NAU. That's a win. At Kansas State, at Utah. The Kansas State game is not a Big 12 conference game. It's a non-conference matchup. It's in Manhattan. I think Kansas State wins. I think they lose at Utah. Then stack up a couple wins with Texas Tech and BYU. One of my upsets of the year in the Big 12 is Colorado going into Tucson and beating the Wildcats for their third loss of the year. I think they beat West Virginia. Then on the back half, I think they will beat Houston. I think they will beat Arizona State. I don't think they'll have real problems with either of those teams. But I am projecting a split in the road games with UCF and TCU. I think the UCF game is more likely, but I don't hate TCU's offseason. I think Andy Avalos comes in and is a really good defensive coordinator to help the Horned Frogs on that side of the ball. I think they bounce back after they had their fallback year. So those are two tough road games. If you gave me UCF and TCU at home and Houston ASU on the road, I'd feel pretty good about saying Arizona can go 4-0 in that stretch. But in those final 4 games of the year, I think they will lose one of those two. And it's not as much a knock against Arizona as it is a credit to what the other teams have done this offseason with things that I like. That's how I think they wind up at 8-4. K-State, Utah, Colorado, and a little bit of a surprise, which happens every year. By the way, everybody's got a surprise. Well, not everybody. Georgia does it. But UCF or TCU. Where am I wrong?
I think 8-4s. I wouldn't go with that. I would say 10-2 is the ceiling. I don't think they go any higher than that. I don't think they go 11-1 or 12-0. I think I'm probably 10 is the ceiling. I'm between 9-3 and 10-2 for the team right now. I think they're going to split one of the K-State Utah games, most likely to beat K-State. I think at Utah, Utah is one of the best home field advantages in the sport. Like I just think,
yeah.
So they're probably going to lose that game.
As long as Cam Rising stays on the field. Like Cam Rising is taken off the field with an injury again, that of course changes the dynamic.
Exactly. So I think I'll say they beat K-State, lose to Utah. I don't hate the Colorado pick. I do think Colorado's a lot better than some people might think. They addressed their weaknesses hard this offseason.
Very hard. Very hard.
Great job getting the D-line better. They got some new pieces on the O-line as well. The new receivers I really like too. A new corner in Preston Hodge is really good. Some new linebackers. So they really addressed their weaknesses. So I think that could be an interesting one. I don't hate that. West Virginia's going to be a tough game. UCF's always going to be a tough game. So yeah, I think 9-3 is what I'm probably projecting, but I think 10-2 overall is probably what I'm going to say. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go 9-3. I think anything less than 9-3 should be seen as disappointment for Arizona. So I would say 9-3 and 10-2 is probably the two records I would say is most likely for that team right now.
I can see 9-3. It's not unreasonable. All these games could play out exactly how I think, but they beat Colorado or they, go and upset Kansas State. They're an 8.5-point dog in Manhattan week 2, and I think they should be because I think Kansas State is a good team. Sounds like Max is going to open up the old pocketbook there.
Open up the wallet. Yeah.
FanDuel.com. That's the link, Max. FanDuel.com. They've got stuff for everybody over there. Do not forget. Well, disagree though we may. Max Chadwick, Pro Football Focus. Always enjoy the chat, my man. College football, as this show releases, is 11 days away. How great is that? What? Max, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Spence.